Welcome to class. Today we're going over Exodus 3. Depending on how long it takes us, we may spill over into Exodus 4. We're going to start Exodus 3 today. And if you haven't had a chance, I'll write it up here just so that you've got this information. It's pretty easy. I am posting these videos and other... this is where it's all going, bradflight.com/Exodus. So I am putting these videos, we're recording them for those of you who missed and need to watch this from home. How you doing? And then I'm putting additional information with pictures, maps, all of that stuff underneath there. So that way it's something, we were using, not ChatMe. What's the app? We're using GroupMe. It's a chat app, GroupMe. And I still use it for communicating with the main members of the group, etc. But I figured by putting it here, you don't have to be a member of the group to see this. You can just share this with whoever you want to at that point. So bradflight.com/Exodus. And that will show, and I'm breaking it down by chapter, and I will have images and maps and other additional study material, videos that go along with what we're learning. I'll put them all under each chapter as we're going through there.
When does
So
the hardcover come out?
the hardcover, we've already got it. It's right here. We've already got it. It's already here. And Chris has been working as well. He's been doing his studying on the archaeology side and the history side, kind of looking at some of the culture, maybe the activities that they're working on, maybe some of the structures, what was happening in the world. So he'll be interjecting some of that stuff as we go through. He's already been doing that since we started Exodus, but he'll also be doing some of that as well as we continue going through. Exodus 3 today, and then Exodus 4, it'll carry over into Exodus 4. And then the next meeting, we'll finish up Exodus 4 and 5. And then we'll start going into Exodus 6 through 11, which is going to be the plagues. And I put all that, it looks like a lot, and it is a lot, but I'm going to have it broken down. You'll see why I put them all together, because they all interconnect together with...
What chapter is the plagues?
6 through 11.
Okay.
Yeah, 6 through 11. So that's 2 weeks from now. Next week, we will meet on Monday. So this is Monday night Bible study. We're meeting on Monday nights, except for we've been meeting on Tuesdays because my kid normally plays football on Monday nights. He played a scrimmage yesterday against the 8th graders, and they did really well because the other team, so many kids failed, they couldn't field a second team. So anyway, so that's where you go to see this stuff. If you want to watch the video, you can share this with people, whatever. So let's dive into the text together. If you'll notice here, I have a whole platform with stuff that we're going to look at. This is not overwhelming. I'm not going to go through this entire thing. Obviously, I've only got a couple of little notes up here that we're going to look at. But this is something that you can get, that you can use to study. This is the Strong's Expanded Exhaustive Concordance, and it takes every word in the Bible, the Hebrew and the Greek, and it breaks it down into definitions and contextual usage. And so that's why, and this is just like basically a giant dictionary of where to find things. And I'm using this. This is my standby. This is the ESV, English Standard Version, the Hebrew Greek Keyword Study Bible. And so as you're actually looking through here, reading the Bible, you can't see it from where you're at, but there are little tiny numbers next to some of the words, and those numbers correspond with the numbers in here. So I'm actually, as I'm going through, I'm looking, okay, that. Yeah.
People that they don't know.
Yeah. Well, I want you guys to learn from what we're doing, but I'm not some sort of mystical, like special, wizard that I just magically know stuff. Like once you have the resources, you just look them up at that point. So you too can study and also, figure out additional context and history and all that kind of stuff as well. And you have what do you have there? Let me see it real quick. So this is the Archaeology Bible, and he's chewed on it a little bit here. He was hungry. And this is in the ESV. And so it gives additional context and some artwork and for each chapter that goes through there. So that's really cool. There are also, on the topic of Bibles, there are also what we call chronological Bibles, because the canon, the canonical Bible that we have here is what they agreed that is the Christian Bible. But they have one that's actually in chronological order. That means from when it happens. Because right now, this stuff is not in chronological order. Psalms is here in the middle. Everyone knows Psalms. Well, Psalms is in the middle, but actually it's being written by people that are way back here in 1st and 2nd Samuel. So that means that those are actually concurrent, but we have... David wrote a lot of the Psalms, yeah. So the chronological Bible literally takes the stuff out of... No, I don't have one. My dad's got one. I don't have one.
Man, I was looking at it on Amazon.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was talking about buying one.
Well, you can't never have enough Bibles, as long as you're reading them.
Yeah.
They do have, on your phone, they do have the YouVersion has a chronological Bible reading plan, where it will actually... Each day, it'll pop up, here's what you read for the day, and it's chronological stuff, which is pretty cool. So anyway, on the topic of Bibles, you can never have enough Bibles, but it doesn't matter how many you have if you're not reading them, okay? It's not just artwork that you collect. It is something that you actually read and use, okay? So we're going to read through here in Exodus chapter 3 about Moses. And then we're going to talk about it some, okay? So I'm reading from the Modern English Version. That's the one that I like. I also have the ESV here. You can use whatever version you want. The information is going to be the same with maybe slightly different terminology. So we'll go through there together. I'm in the MAV. Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the far side of the desert and came to the mountain of God, to Horeb. The angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of a bush. And he looked, and the bush burned with fire, but the bush was not consumed. So Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why this bush is not burnt. And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called to him from out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses, like Charlton Heston, like we talked about, right? Yeah, James Earl Jones. He said, do not approach here. Remove your sandals from off your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground. Moreover, he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. The Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt, and have heard their cry on account of their taskmasters. And we talked about that last week, right? For I know their sorrows. Therefore, I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land to a good and spacious land, to a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Now therefore, the cry of the children of Israel has come to me. Moreover, I have also seen the oppression with which the Egyptians are now oppressing them. Come now therefore, and I will send you to Pharaoh, so that you may bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. So we're going to stop right there for a second. Let's recap what's happening here. Let's go back to verse 1. Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law. Who's Jethro? Yeah. Toll, the rocker, Jethro Toll.
I remember later in this story there was a family when they were in the land that was protected when they were supposed to go through the land and conquer and kill everybody. It was Jethro's family. I don't remember what the last name was.
We'll get to that eventually. Now, the reason I'm asking that is because when you come back here to chapter 2, verse 18, if you'll flip a page over or hit the reverse arrow and go to chapter 2, verse 18, and it says, when they came to Reuel, their father, he said, why is it you have come back so soon today? So, is his name Reuel or is it Jethro? Reuel, basically. That's the Hebrew Reuel.
That was father-in-law.
So Reuel, translated, means friend of God. And Jethro means a good friend. So,
Reuel was a priest. He was a Midian priest.
well, we see that in chapter 3, but in chapter 2, it doesn't connect him to being a priest. It just says, when they came to Reuel, their father. Chapter 3, verse 1, here we see Moses, he's married to Zipporah, one of the daughters of Reuel, and it says, his father-in-law, Jethro, the priest of Midian. So, is this guy going by two different names? It'd be like, hey, you can call me Chris, but some people call me Bob.
Well, I think that's like kind of like going by, hey, go ask the bishop or go ask the. It's their title or position.
That's right. That's what I think it is. I think it is related to his title. Bingo. 3 gold stars for Taryn tonight. So I think we're relating to his title previously, but now we're talking about Jethro individually. And that's from what my research was saying that was likely a term of kind of like your lordship or your bishopness or whatever. Like it was a more saying his title and his role than it was about his name. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is he kept the flock of Jethro. So Moses left Egypt and he ran away because he killed a man, right? And do you remember that when they first came to the land of Goshen in Genesis, why did they choose Goshen?
It was like the nicest land.
To do what? And?
Trade?
Nope. You're almost there. The nicest land to farm and raise animals.
So that was farther north?
It's the northeast part of the delta. Of the delta.
So it's more fertile.
More fertile for whatever reason. So here we see Moses in chapter 3, about years later. He is, we'll find out how many years later when you get into the story here, but Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law. So we see Moses is still shepherding the flock. We saw Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, all shepherding flocks. So there's nothing new here, right? I mean, this is like my dad 5 generations ago was a shepherd, so I'm going to be a shepherd. This is what I do. This is my role in life, okay? So here he is. He's a shepherd. Now remember, he was born Hebrew, but he was raised in the Egyptian palace, okay? And if you'll remember, you weren't here last week, Taryn, but I'm going to erase this out.
And it's my theory that they used the Rosetta Stone to teach them how to read.
That's possible.
Yeah. I mean, it is.
So we know this word. What is this word? Pharaoh. That is actually a transliteration or a bad translation of this. Paro. And this in Hebrew means the great house. Kind of like when we refer to as the White House and all who's involved in there. It's the great house. Because for the longest time, we talked about this, I'm just doing a little review here. Because who was in the Paro? No. Why would remember, this is a Hebrew word. So why would the Hebrews, the king was there, right? So you have an Egyptian king. But why would the Hebrews say it's a great house? Why didn't they just say king? Who else was in the house? No.
The family.
No. Getting closer.
King's family.
King's family was in there. But why do the Hebrews care about that? Why is it a great house to the Hebrews?
Well, that's where, that's where Joseph was.
Joseph was in there.
He was
The viceroy.
yeah.
The viceroy. So it's a great house.
Because they were relating. Yeah.
That's right. So when they say Pharaoh, Paro, they're saying the great house. Because they weren't so much honoring the king of Egypt. Throughout history, they were called kings of Egypt. They never called themselves Pharaoh. It wasn't until the Hebrews started the practice of calling at Joseph's time, when they started calling it the great house, the Pharaoh, that they started connecting it to the kings.
What are other historical writings around that era refer to him, or refer to him as, like in Egyptian writings?
As the king.
As a king?
Yes. They don't call him Pharaoh.
Okay, that's cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So they're connecting the dots for us. Yeah. And so they're using king. The Egyptians are saying king, but the Hebrews are saying the great house because Joseph was the second in command. And so they're like, hey, we got somebody up in there. We got somebody, a champion for our cause. Someone's representing up in here, right? So we have the Paro, the great house. They don't just say the king, because if it's just the king, it's up to his whim and whimsy, right? But when we say Paro, then we're saying Joseph, he's got a role in this. Now, you remember what happens in verse 7 of chapter 1 of Exodus.
Where what chapter?
Exodus chapter 1.
Oh, where the king that knew Joseph not?
Who did not know Joseph.
Did they still refer to him as Pharaoh then?
They still referred to them as Pharaoh at that point. But it was just like culturally, that's what we do now. But it wasn't because there was anybody in there anymore. There was a new Pharaoh. Joseph had died, and there was a new Pharaoh who didn't remember or care about the activities of Joseph. So the Paro. So you have Moses was picked up out of the water, right? He was drawn out. That's what Moses means, drawn out. And he is living and growing up in the Paro, in the great house. But it was not hidden to him that he was Hebrew. He's known that he's Hebrew. So when he goes out in chapter 2 and sees the Egyptian taskmaster whipping one of his brothers pretty badly, I'm going to guess, he intercedes and kills the Egyptian guy and buries him in the sand. And so really, there's two scenarios there. I'm kind of doing a little review, but it all connects, you'll see. There's kind of two scenarios. One is the guy who he saved from the beating was like, dude, Moses, maybe we have another guy in the Paro who's going to stand up for us. And he starts spreading like wildfire this gossip. Or there was other people who happened to be, because it says he looked back and forth it says he looked around before he did it. So I'm saying it was the witness that he protected, that guy he protected was saying this, and that's why I'm connecting the dots, because he's like, could it be that we're going to have the Paro again? We're going to have somebody, he's in Pharaoh's house, but he's here to protect us and stand up for us. And yeah. And so the next day he sees two Hebrew guys fighting. And he's like, well, come on, man, don't do your brother like that. And they're like, what's it to you? You're going to kill me too? So word had gotten around. And he was like, not good, I'm out. So he left, and the king, Pharaoh, as we call him, heard about it and was basically going to try to find him and kill him, but he had ran away. So he's run away, and he went to the land of Midian, which I'll remind you, if you're looking on the website, under chapter 2 and chapter 3, you'll see maps related to where Midian is. But I'm a pretty decent cartographer, so. Yeah. What?
You'd be good at hangman.
So here's the Sinai Peninsula. This is the Red Sea here, and this is the Gulf of Aqaba. I don't know how to spell it very well. Aqaba, something like that. And this is the Nile River Delta, right? And so we've got the Nile River, and then here is the Sea of Galilee, the Jordan, and the Dead Sea, more or less. So you guys have a good idea? This is the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
All right. So what we see is he's here in Goshen with the other Hebrews, and he kills the dude and buries him in the sand, and he takes off, and he ends up in Midian, which is right there. This part over here, there's another little gulf that comes in here. Do anybody know what this is called over here? Persian Gulf. This is the Saudi Peninsula. So the far northwest corner of the Saudi Peninsula is Midian. Okay? This is Israel. I'm so sorry. I really messed that up. Let me erase that.
Oh yeah, I was watching that on the documentary of where the real Mount Sinai was.
Yes.
We were also watching for the Garden of Eden, remember? We were far away.
So this is what we refer to as the land of Israel. Here's Jordan. Here's Iraq. Iran. Are you getting an idea now of where we are? Okay. Egypt. And this is still considered, this is a territory here. I didn't draw it correctly, but basically, yeah, I didn't draw that right. This is actually further over here. I told you I was going to mess that up. But you get the idea that this one comes up here, and this becomes the Sinai Peninsula. All right, so you get the idea that he went all the way around here to that's where Midian is. So don't get lost in the weeds. But I want you to understand that he went hundreds of miles, which is a feat for somebody on foot, right? Through the desert. It's not like this is hiking through.
Well, it's desert now. Was it desert back then, really?
It was a little bit greener than it is today, but it was still desert. Like we actually when they're wandering through the desert, it's talking about it's desert. Like it's still very arid land.
Was it a desert or wilderness when it says they're wandering?
It's both wilderness.
The Antiquity Bible is called the desert.
Yeah.
The Sinai Desert.
And we'll look into those terms when we get. They're still in Egypt right now, enslaved. So anyway, he goes hundreds of miles around here, and he goes over there. Now, there's a possible reason that he went over there, and that's because a son of Abraham, through his wife Keturah, one of the sons' name is Midian. So this is basically a distant cousin. So he went to the land of Midian to be with more of his people, basically. Distant cousins, like, oh yeah, you remember Aunt Eldred? I don't remember that. Who? Oh yeah. Well, anyway, we're cousins. Like, it's good. I'm good to go. I'm part of the line of Abraham. Like, okay, I can buy that. That's fine. And how would he prove that he was part of the line of Abraham? He was circumcised, right?
Yeah.
So that would be something that would connect them. So let's go back to Exodus chapter 3. We kind of went on a roundabout way, but so we see Moses was keeping the sheep of his father-in-law Jethro, and he's the priest of Midian. Now, although this is a distant cousin of his, there is goodness gracious, I must have been erasing really hard. There is a lot of scholarly debate about him being the priest of Midian. Some scholars want to assert that he was a follower and believer of Jehovah God over there. Some want to say that he converted to becoming a follower of Jehovah God after they crossed over the Red Sea. And some want to say that he converted to being a follower of Jehovah God after they whipped the Amalekites' butt later on, which we haven't got there yet. So we know that he's a holy man, that he's a spiritual person, or he's leading people in some sort of worship. But the question is going to be, is he leading them to worship Yahweh or gods that they're worshiping in the area? From my research, it appears that he is worshiping other gods, and he doesn't come into a relationship until he's with Yahweh, until later. Now, I don't know which one. Yes?
Okay, isn't a priest considered a mediator between God and man?
Between the God or
So
mankind.
if he was a priest, truly a priest for Yahweh, why would God talk to him through a burning bush?
He didn't talk to Jethro. He talked to Moses.
Okay. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It was a priest. Never mind.
The father-in-law was the priest of Midian. Not Moses. Jethro was the priest of Midian.
That's what I'm saying. Why wouldn't he talk to Moses through Jethro if he was truly a priest?
Right. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, you're reverse engineering it. He should have been able to just say, "Hey, Moses, I need you to here's something to do. God, give me something. Here's something." But he didn't, because he was likely not participating with God. Good. Yeah, I like that.
I think this is also the first theophany of the Old Testament. Unless you can count
Melchizedek and who he wrestles with when Jacob wrestles him and he gets named Israel. Yeah, those are in Genesis.
And also, when they built the altar, when it came off the ark, didn't the Spirit of God come down on that too?
I don't remember that. Maybe. No, he smelled it and he said barbecue is awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But he didn't appear.
He didn't appear there. No. It was a pleasing aroma to God. He loved the smell of barbecue. And I get it. I am.
Yes.
No, Noah.
When Noah came off the ark, they built an altar.
Oh, yeah.
That was the first altar built.
Yeah.
And did it say what he
well, that's the first altar built after the flood. I was actually studying something else earlier today, and Cain and Abel gave sacrifices to God.
Yes.
And so Cain killed Abel. Cain's sacrifice was his farm stuff, and Abel was a shepherd all the way back then, and he was offering up the animals as sacrifices.
There's an idea that the very first sacrifice ever made for sin, which is where
that's back to Adam and Eve,
was when God, when he covered their nakedness with animal skins.
But that was God doing that for.
But there's people are like I've heard it taught that that's where God taught them how to do sacrifice.
I think that's true. Yeah.
Where he gave.
It's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. All right, so he's a priest, and we're saying, based on what we're talking about, I love your yes, good addition, that God didn't speak to him through the priest of Midian because God wasn't talking to that priest of Midian.
That's a good point too, though. Maybe he wasn't on the up and up with God.
Correct. So he doesn't use the priest of Midian there. And he led the flock to the far side of the desert and came to the mountain of God, to Horeb. Now, on the website under chapter 3, I've got some pictures there of Mount Horeb in Midian. And there's a video that I've attached there. When you talk to the local people, they'll say, "Oh, yeah, Mount Horeb? Oh, you mean that one over there?" And they're like, "Yeah, what about Mount Sinai?" Like, no, we call it Mount Musa. That's Mount Moses. Like, they actually call it that over here in Midian, okay? So it says, they went to the far side of the desert, came to the mountain of God, to Horeb. The place where he is, there's a town right here called Al-Bad, and I put a map of where that is, Al-Bad, and then the mountains are basically right there. So he came to the far side of that desert plain, to that mountain range. And it's one of those deals where when you take Google Earth and you can, like, from that city, you can see the mountains, like, in the distance. It's a travelable distance. So he went across the desert and came to the mountain of God, to Horeb. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire in the midst of a bush. And he looked, and the bush burned with fire, but the bush was not consumed. So he sees up on this mountain, he sees a burning bush. And I've actually got a picture of a burning bush in a desert area on the website. You can see a picture of it. Now, if you'll look on that picture, the vegetation is very sparse. It's spread out. And it's so
West Texas is now.
kind of like West Texas, and it's so dry that material is going to burn up completely and basically be gone.
Well, that's why the fires in California keep going. It's so dry in here.
Except for this is so sparse that it doesn't really pass from one to another because they're so far apart. So what he's saying is, I see he probably saw wildfires here and there, and he's like, there's a wildfire, and he's like, but that thing's not going out, and it's not spreading, still burnt. That little bush is not burnt up yet. What in the world? So he's, I'm gonna go see what this thing is. What's going on over here? Okay, so that's what we're seeing here in verse 2. So Moses said, I will now turn aside to see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt. So Moses is kind of talking to himself, I guess, or maybe the people that's with him. So, hey guys, I'm going to go check that out. I'll be back in a little bit, okay? I'm going to hike. Verse 4, when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, it was basically, he was fishing. Mike, you like to go fishing.
Right.
So he had that lure out there. He's like, and he saw that he's, whoa, I got him. He's coming. He's coming up the mountain now. Right?
Right. Yeah.
He when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see God,
Yeah.
called to him from out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. Now, when you see the name listed twice like that, that is a interaction with God. And you'll see that throughout when you see, he says, Abram, Abram, or whatever. And then we actually see that being used later because it's interaction with God when Jesus is on the cross. Do you remember? He goes, my God, my God.
Right.
So we see when you're saying the name twice, it's not just, hey, Mike, it's Mike. Mike.
Yeah.
Like, get my attention. I'm having a conversation with you. Okay. So Moses, Moses. And he said, here am I. So, here am I. Now, that here am I, that is in this concordance that I'm looking up here. I looked it up here, and it's number 2009 in the Hebrew concordance, which doesn't mean a hill of beans to you, but that's what the number is. So I go over here and I look up 2009, and it says Hene. Hene is the word for that. Hene is the way you pronounce it, and it literally means behold. So God says, Moses, Moses. And Moses said, yo. Here I am. He said, behold. Like, yo, what's up? I'm here. I mean, that's literally, there's no verb there. There's no other, it's just, when you translate that word back, he's saying, present. He's just saying, I'm here. Okay? I thought that was funny. Maybe you didn't think that was quite as funny. I thought it was funny. It's like,
No, I was thinking, it's almost like in Shakespeare, like hear ye, hear ye.
yeah,
You know, it's a call.
yes.
Yeah, you call somebody differently.
But here he is. He's about to have this interaction with God. Moses, Moses. And he's like, yo, I'm here.
He's probably confused.
I'm sure. He's like, this
Yeah,
bush is,
here, but I don't
the
know what
bush
you're
is
saying.
talking to me. What's happening? Yeah, I mean. And so then God said, do not approach here. Remove your sandals from off your feet, for the place on which you're standing is holy ground. And I'm the God of your father. And he connects it now to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who we just read through Genesis. So he's connecting him to the story that we just finished up. And then Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. So he realized, he was like, God, and remember, he's been hanging out with his father-in-law, Jethro. He's, I don't think, worshiping Yahweh God, Jehovah God. And so he says, I am the father, I am the God of your fathers, of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who is that Jehovah Yahweh God. Which, by the way, we're going to look at what that is here in just a minute. Okay? Right here. This is in Jehovah is number 3068 in the Hebrew concordance. And Jehovah is, Jehovah is the way you pronounce that. Jehovah, apparently. But it's a what we call the tetragrammaton. Tetragrammaton. Because they wouldn't write the vowels to go along with that name because it was so holy that they didn't feel right pronouncing God's name. So a tetra, which means four, gramma, word, tetragrammaton, This is what they would say. And I'm saying that it's being pronounced Jehovah because that's what it's saying in here, but we actually don't know the true pronunciation. It could be Yahweh, Yahweh. It could be Yehovah, which they use this in the V. Yehovah, Yehovah. Okay.
Now, this paragraph real quick?
Yeah, read it.
It's cool. Have you read for me? This verse right here. It's what you're talking about.
Okay, the name of Yahweh in extra biblical literature. God revealed his name to Moses, the way you have it written there. Frequently referred to today as the Tetragrammaton, literally the 4 letters. The pronunciation of this name has been lost because the Hebrews from the time of the Second Temple period onward refused to pronounce it. It was considered too sacred or holy to say or write out fully. Linguistic studies would indicate that perhaps the name ought to be pronounced Yahweh. The divine name is not exclusive to the Old Testament, but has been found in extra biblical context. Some historians believe that the earliest. Wait, where did you want me?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So the earliest time we see it is Genesis chapter 2 when he's dealing with Adam. So early on, and that makes sense because this is the name of God, not just it's a God, but this is the God. And he's walking with Adam, remember? He's walking in the garden. And he says, it's not good. Hey, this is good, this is good, this is good, this is good. It's not good for you to be alone. I'm going to make you a helpmate. Adam, here's Eve. Just for you, buddy. Just for you. I made Eve. And go name the animals, be fruitful, multiply, be in charge of the earth. Like, he is intimately connected and working through his instructions as Yahweh, Jehovah. I'm going to say either one because, frankly, I just don't know. And I don't think that matters as much as that is his personal name. So we're not saying it's just a God, lowercase g. We're saying this is the specific God of Jehovah, Yahweh. And so El or Eloi or Elohim is sometimes also used in the Bible. And that's just saying God, but it's not his personal name. And so you'll see that when it means Lord, like L-O-R-D, but capital L with lowercase letters, that's when it's talking about he is the Lord or he's the one in charge, the reigning, whatever. Sometimes you'll even see that when they talk to the king or the patriarch, Lord. But when you see in your Bible all caps like this, or sometimes it's a big L and then all caps, but they're small, that is referring to Yahweh Jehovah.
The English language, we ask to pluralize something,
Right.
Cars. Well, in Hebrew, you put I am.
That's right.
So that's why, there's Elohim.
Yes.
When you refer to,
The plurality of God. I don't think it's 3 gods,
of course not.
but I think it's the plurality of
Mm-hmm.
God. It's the Word, the Spirit, and God.
I'm glad you're bringing this up because I actually have something to discuss about that. So let's erase this off of here.
A minyan means 10 or more, right? So the first Hebrews started saying, okay, when there was 10 or more a minyan, that's when they started using Elohim. Like there's 10 of us. But now we can use it in other ways.
So when you look on the website, you'll see 2 pictures. One's looking this direction, and one's looking this direction of these mountains. Okay? This is Sinai. Okay? And we're going to get more into that later. We're not there right now. And this is Mount Horeb. Now, do you see anything in particular about Mount Horeb here? 3 peaks, but isn't it just one mountain?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like 3 in 1.
I wonder if it still has those today.
It does.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm showing in those pictures on the website. You can look at them. So, and it says, where did he go? The burning bush was where? No, it wasn't on Mount Sinai. The end of verse 1. Went to the far side of the desert and came to the mountain of God to Horeb. So he met God as flame, which is going to be important later, as flame on the mountain that's 3 in 1.
So wouldn't you say that would be his Shekinah glory? Because God, the Word of God appeared in a burning bush. It appeared in a pillar of fire. It appeared in a pillar of smoke or cloud.
Mm-hmm.
It appeared in a burning pot that passed between the animals, making
Yeah,
a covenant.
that's right.
But then the Word of God made flesh appeared in the form of Yeshua.
Mm-hmm.
So Jesus is not God, but he's God. Like that's how I try to explain it. Like Jesus is God's Shekinah glory. It was his.
Well,
it was the Word of God.
John chapter 1 says that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word became the light of the world. So it's connecting it back to what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like it's a physical manifestation of God's presence on earth. It would be like God obviously can't, the creator of the universe can't fit, so it's like his physical manifestation. It's the form of that pillar of fire, pillar of cloud, the burning bush. This is his.
Well, that's the actual meaning of Shekinah. Manifested glory.
Yeah, manifested glory.
So you've already hit it on there. So we've got this bush, right? And it's got flame on it. So this is God in the form of the fire, which I agree. I think this is a Christophany. I think this is a indication of Jesus being here in this form. I think Jesus comes to the earth in different forms. Like we talked about Melchizedek. Where did he come from? Melchizedek is the...
one of the angels that visited Lot and Abraham.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So Melchizedek, I always joke that Melchizedek leads us to the Cotton Eye Joe. It's like, where did he come from? Where did he go? Where did he come from? Melchizedek Joe, so we got... but I see this here, and as we're going to get into the plagues and all that stuff, and then they're going to get out of Egypt, and then we're going to come back to this discussion about the fire, because there's a pillar of fire, and there's some cool stuff. So just remember that he's here in the form of this fire.
Too, if he would have came at nighttime, it would have drawn a lot of attention from people. So coming in the daytime, it just pinned Moses.
Sure. And he happened to be in the area.
Oh, yeah, it was all planned out.
Okay. So this is, by the way, this is the mountain here. And so the city would be, Al-Bad's over here, and it would have, a little village or whatever. So he went to the far side of the desert to find some green grass to feed the flock. And that's when he's like, what's going on over here?
Don't the movie have a sheep getting lost?
I think maybe.
He goes up on the hill.
Yeah. But that's not why he went to chase the sheep. He's actually there because he sees the bush, and he's like, hey, guys, I need to go see this thing. So he's actually, in the Bible, in the movie, it's kind of a neat little transition, All right, so let's continue. So when he saw the bush to turn aside, he said, Moses, said, here I am. He said, yo, I'm here, present. And he said, do not approach here, etc. And then he hid his face. And I think when he hid his face, he realized, oh man, I've heard about this Jehovah Yahweh God, but I come from the land of Egypt. We worship whatever Ra.
Did Moses ever broke away to go worship with his people, or no?
I don't think that the Hebrews were worshiping God, and I'll show you why in just
even in secret, I guess.
Even in secret.
Yeah.
And I'll explain why in just a minute. So I see him also saying, well, my father-in-law is not even doing this Jehovah God, and this Jehovah God is talking to me, knows my name, and is presenting itself, where all these idols are going to be sitting around. Here is a God that's presenting himself to me in like a real way. Oh man, wow, this is heavy. So he covers his face at the end of verse 6. Going to verse 7. The Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt, and have heard their cry on account of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows. Therefore I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of the land to a good and spacious land, to a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites, the Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. So I said this last week, and I'm gonna reiterate it here. In Exodus chapter 2, we see the Hebrew people are crying out in their affliction. It doesn't say crying to God, crying to Jehovah Yahweh. It says they're crying out. They're like, oh, this is terrible. This is horrible. I can't believe we're going through it. This stinks. This is really terrible. But I don't see them specifically in the text say, oh, Lord our God, Jehovah Yahweh, please come and rescue us. Okay?
Well, I heard that God told Abraham when he made the covenant with him that they would only be in slavery for 400 years.
Okay, so we have prophecy. Good. So we got the 400 years. So clock's ticking somewhere. The second thing is go back to Abraham. Remember, we have the animal here, and we have the animal here. In that covenant, he said, Abram, I am the greater party. I'm going to pass through between these animals because I'm the one who's able to, I have the authority to establish this covenant with you and your descendants. And remember, Abraham's in sleep paralysis. Remember we talked about that? He's in sleep paralysis. And God passes through the second time, like the one is smoke and one's fire. And he passes through the second time. The second time is for the lesser party to say, if this covenant is not fulfilled, then I will be as dead as this animal here.
Well, that's how they made a covenant back in that time, was taking something and passing through the cut flesh. That's why, because even somebody was asking me, why circumcision? Why is that the sign of, I was like, it's the seed passing through cut flesh.
Sure.
Covenant. That's how a man comes into a covenant with his virgin bride.
There you go.
Passing between the cut flesh is how you made a covenant.
That's great. I love that connection. So we see even here, God saying, I'm in covenant with you, and I'm going to pass through. So if this covenant is not fulfilled for some reason by you, which let's face it, you're not going to do it, I will be the one to fulfill it for you. So I see in that covenant, I see the people have forgotten Jehovah Yahweh, God, and they're just crying out. They're just crying in agony. And I see God saying, yep, here it is. That's that. I'm going to pick it up because I did both parts of that covenant. I will be the one to step in. And he says here, I surely have seen the affliction of my people, and I've heard their cry on account of taskmasters, and I know their sorrows. I'm going to take them out of that land to a better land. Now, therefore, the cry of the children of Israel has come to me. Moreover, I have also seen the oppression with which the Egyptians are oppressing them. Come now, therefore, I will send you to Pharaoh, so that you may bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. Now, here in the text, we see Moses writing still, I'm going to send you to Pharaoh. He doesn't say the Pharaoh. He says, I'm going to send you to Pharaoh. What's he saying there? I'm sending you to the great house. I'm going to send you to the great house. You go talk to the great man, the big man on the block or whatever. You go talk to the big man, and then you will bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. Now, if you'll see here, this all is, like sometimes when you watch a movie and at the very beginning of the movie, there's maybe pictures kind of going across the screen, or maybe they have a dialogue or something, and then you get to the very end of the movie, and then you realize, wait a second, they told me the whole entire movie. If I just paid attention to those pictures in the very beginning, they gave me the whole movie right there in the beginning, and I sat through 2 hours, and they gave it to me. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you seen that before? Some movies will do that. I'm using the term foreshadow. I don't know if that's correct or not, but I'm going to use the term foreshadow. So here we see foreshadow. Here we see, come now therefore, I will send you to the great house so that you may bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. And Moses said to God, well, who am I? That wasn't I don't know, my name's Moses. He knew he was Hebrew. He was raised in Egyptian. He knows who he is. So what is he asking here when he says, who am I? And let's continue. Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt? It's like, I'm nobody. I'm a shepherd in Midian, hundreds of miles away. I'm hiding out because I'm an outlaw. Who am I? I'm nobody. I'm not a priest. I'm not a prophet. I'm not a.
And to be a wanted man on top of that.
He's a wanted man.
Yeah, so
He's hiding out.
That makes it a little tougher too.
And so when I see him say, "Who am I?" I think he's thinking, really, how can I?
Yeah.
I go back, man. Pharaoh is like, how can I be the one? I can't go back. In verse 12, and he said, God said to him, certainly I will be with you, and this will be a sign to you that I have sent you. When you have brought forth the people out of Egypt, all of you shall serve God on this mountain. Remember that mountain? They connect. I drew them like this, but they actually have a ridge that connects the two of those together. It's the Jebel al-Laz mountain range. And Horeb is north and Sinai is south. So he's going to come to this mountain to worship God. Now I'm sure he knew exactly where to go, which we'll get to later, whenever he saw the pillar of fire. When you're following a pillar of fire and it just stops, you're like, okay, I guess this is where we're going. Like, you just kind of follow it, okay? So he says, you're going to come back to this mountain to serve. So you're going to go, you're going to bring him out of Egypt, you're going to come back here to worship. So there's the story right there. Right? I mean, he's just told them what's going to happen. There's the story. And Moses said to God, I am going to the children of Israel and will say to them, the God of your fathers sent me to you. When they say to me, what's his name? What shall I say to them? Because this is where I really think that they're not worshiping him, because the God of your fathers, and they're going to be like, who? What? What are you talking about? The God of our fathers. What are you talking about? So what's a name that I can give to them? And so God said to Moses, I am who I am. Right? To use the old Charlton Heston movie. Yes?
You know where else that is found?
Popeye. I am who I am. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man.
Do you know what that word means? If you look up any other place that it is in the Bible, the only other place it's used is let it be and there was.
Well, actually, I looked it up in this book. Yeah.
So it means let it be and there was.
So it's number 19.
The creator. He's the.
That's right. So it's 1960. It's 1961 is the number in the concordance here, and it actually means Haya. So it's like karate. So he says Haya. This is what he sold him. So Moses is like, oh yes. Yeah. And it's to become, to pass, accomplished, committed, to follow, to happen, to pertain to require. And so, yeah, he's really saying, let it come to pass, let it be.
And it was.
And it was.
I'm the creator.
That's right. So you go back to Genesis when he says, and God said, let the heavens and the earth, whatever, and it was, right? So he's actually referring back to Genesis. Yeah, to creation. So pretty cool stuff. I mean, it really is cool. Now, I also think, this is Brad's own personal note, it's a little bit snarky. Instead of saying Yahweh, Jehovah, that we talked about a second ago, is like, who do they tell me? They're going to say, well, who sent you? And you're going to tell them.
Right. How does that translate?
Yeah. You're not going to tell them Yahweh, Jehovah. I know that's what you're calling me, but you're going to tell them, let it be, and it was. That's kind of a snarky. I mean, that's kind of a smart aleck remark. Yeah. I don't know if this is going to work. I appreciate your enthusiasm, God. I'm not sure that this is going to quite work out. Okay. But, okay, fine. I'll do it. And he says, you will say this to the children of Israel, I am has sent you. And I am is only half of a Haya. It's not Haya. It's Haya. So he's saying, let it be has sent you. Or it's done has sent you. Either way.
You know what I think about too? You know, for a person to have to write 5 books about something, you have to be seriously impacted about it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And this is the beginning. This is starting to impact Moses so much.
Oh yeah.
And now you can see how he is the author of the Torah.
Yeah.
Or if this wouldn't have happened, who's going to sit down and write 5 books? You're not.
No.
You're not going to do it.
No.
But here's where it starts.
This is where it starts, and I think he gets this other information through divine inspiration, as well as, I believe, information passed down through Adam to Seth to Shem, through Noah to Shem, and down all the way to Moses. Okay? So God, moreover, said to Moses, I'm in verse 15, thus you will say to the children of Israel, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham. This is where he uses here in verse 15, he uses Yahweh, Jehovah here. He says, Yahweh, Jehovah, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial to all generations. So he's like clarifying. He kind of gives a smart aleck remark. Tell them, let it be, and it was, sent you. And he's like, I guess I can do that. He's like, actually, the Lord Yahweh Jehovah, the God of your fathers, has sent me to you. So he actually clarifies. So I almost see the I am that I am is almost kind of it's almost kind of a little smarter, like a little remark.
Just think about it. If you're witnessing this bush, you're not going to question authority by any means.
No. And furthermore, I think that this interaction lends itself to setting up the narrative for his head-to-head competition with Pharaoh, with the king. Okay? I think him saying, let it be, and it was. Well, do you remember what Charlton Heston, what Yul Brynner said in the movie, in the Ten Commandments? Do you remember? He used the line.
Oh, did he?
He said, they were like, so let it be written, so let it be done.
Okay. I like it when they use the original.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? So he actually uses the original in that movie. So let it be written, so let it be done. So you're going to make this and my name forever, and this is my memorial to all generations. Okay? Go and gather the elders of Israel together. So gather the leaders, the older group of leaders, and say to them, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the Lord there is Yahweh Jehovah, God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, appeared to me, saying, I am indeed concerned about you and what has been done to you in Egypt. Therefore I said, I will bring you up out of the affliction of Egypt to the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, Hivites, the Jebusites, to a land flowing with milk and honey. They shall listen to your voice, and you shall come, and you and the elders of Israel, to the king of Egypt there, he uses the word king, to the king of Egypt, and you must say to him, the Lord Yahweh Jehovah, the God of the Hebrews, has met with us. Therefore now let us go, we ask you, 3 days' journey into the wilderness, so that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God. However, I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go. No, not even under a forceful hand. So I will stretch out my hand and will strike Egypt with all of my wonders. He's calling them wonders. What do we call them? Plagues, which I will perform in its midst, and after that he will let you go. Again, he's telling the whole story right here. Yeah. He's like, here's what's going to happen, and then you're going to say this, and he's going to say this, and you're going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and then you're going to be set free. I mean, he's given chapter 3 is, you don't even have to read the rest of this. If you didn't want to, chapter 3 is this. I mean, that's it. Okay? And he says, down here in verse 21, I will give this people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, and it will come to pass that when you go, you will not go empty-handed, but every woman will borrow, the word's actually request, when you look at the original, it's request, will borrow of her neighbor and of her that sojourns in her house articles of silver, articles of gold, and clothing, and you will put them on your sons and on your daughters. In this way you will plunder the Egyptians. I mean, chapter 3 is telling us this is what's going down. This is what's going to happen. And I'm going to take you out of there. I'm not just going to take you out of there, guys.
It's like he's debriefing a general.
Yes.
For a military operation.
Yes.
Same exact.
Same stuff. That's right. So he's basically saying, here we go. We are going to attack, basically, Pharaoh, the king. He even called him the word king there. We're going to attack the king of Egypt. And we're going to ask him to let us go, and he's not going to let us go. And then I'm going to do these things, and then he's going to let you go. And by the way, not only is he going to let you go, but you're going to plunder the place. You're going to take all the gold and all the silver and the clothing, and you're going to get out of there with your sons and daughters, and you're going to escape. Like, ready, break. Go team, you know.
The only thing you didn't warn him about is a bunch of stiff-necked people that he had to deal with.
Well, we're going to get to that. There's some psychology or psychiatry. I don't know. I can't.
Psychology, they can write prescriptions. Psychiatrists can't.
There's some something.
Psychosis.
Involved. And we'll talk about that as we get into,
But God don't mention that, though. It's not mentioned.
No.
He don't warn Moses.
No, but next week when we get into chapter 6, he gives them 4 promises. So we're going to get into that next week. But that's chapter 3, okay? And we still have a couple of minutes. So I want to, you know what, though? Let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and close chapter 3, and we'll hit 4 and 5 next week. But I wanted to lay down the groundwork for what we're going to be covering, because he just told us what we're covering.
Yeah, right.
I mean, this is and when I was in school, we had Cliff's Notes.
Yeah.
This is the Cliff Notes. This is it. Here you go. Here's what's going to happen, right? So I have a couple of videos that are going to be on here. I'm not sure if I'm going to put them in chapter 3 or if I'll put it later in chapter 12 or whatever, but we'll get there. But yeah, the information and the maps and the pictures and stuff, make sure you go onto the website. I'll put it on here again.
I took a picture of it.
Yeah, and I'll put it on the video for you guys as well. That way you can see it as well. But it's I'm putting all sorts of stuff on there, and you're bringing some stuff as well when you are, have your Archaeology Bible. And I just want you guys to have the resources to be able to intelligently talk about and learn about the Bible. I think for me, it is a intellectual thing. It's not solely my faith. I have a great faith, and I want you to have a great faith. But my great faith is also because I am actively gathering facts about God and who He is and what He's done, and that makes me have so much more faith.
That's why I love the art of apologetics. If you're not, studied or well studied, you might as well don't even open the door. Don't open the door to Jehovah's Witnesses if you're not up on your stuff.
Sure.
Because they go to classes. They know their stuff. So do the Mormons.
Absolutely.
We lost a person in our Bible study that had been coming for a year. We lost her to the Mormons.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that was personal. I mean, she lives four houses down.
Oh, wow.
But man, those 2 girls that used to come around the Mormons, I mean, they're really sweet natured. Because I stood out front talking for hours. But man, they were so convincing, man. But yeah, you got to know your stuff. You got to know the Bible that you believe in.
One of the things I will tell you is, as I was studying previous to preparing for this Exodus study right now, this is the Red Sea here, and it has these 2 lobes right here and right here. This is where the Suez Canal goes up, right there, and this is the Nile River over here. This is what's referred to as the Sinai Peninsula. Okay, this is actually belongs to Egypt, and then there's a line here where Saudi Arabia is in there.
The British tried to take that in the early 1900s. There was a war fought there on the Sinai Peninsula.
Yep.
Yeah, it was crazy. They don't teach that in history books.
No, but they did. They tried to take that because it is strategic.
It's important.
It's a strategic land. And there's a lot of people who say, well, the Exodus, they crossed over, this little river here that they finished into the Suez Canal. They crossed across that, and then they went down here, and they went to this. This is the traditional Sinai here. You'll see that in your Bible, even if you have maps and stuff. That's where the traditional Sinai is. But the problem is, correct. Constantine's mom is the one who labeled it there, and she's the one who's like, here's where it is.
That was a headstrong woman there.
And
Yeah, she put all kinds of stuff everywhere. Okay, here's where Jesus was born.
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Yes, the Holy Sepulchre and all that stuff. So here's the deal. The problem is now archaeologists and scientists, they've been trying, okay, this is where the Mount Sinai is. Well, they go down there and they can't find the evidence.
That's the point. You know,
The cave,
That's right.
there
They can't.
should be ancient litter, like the broken pottery. There's not. They can't find anything.
But over the past 20 years, literally over the past 20 years, they have uncovered
You go by Ron White.
ancient Midian. Ron Wyatt went over here once, I think, but I'm talking about some new people. I have videos that I watched this afternoon from 2016 and 2018 coming into this area.
There's been some new evidence.
Yes.
there's
And
you
so-
can see where they set up the golden calf, and then
Yes.
they did the
They've got
pictures of the-
pictographs all on it.
Yeah, and you can see the pillars where the 12 tribes were, and you can see the pins where they had the animals, and you can see the cave.
That's cool.
You can see
I
the.
kind of gave up on the
Elijah.
research about 5 years ago because there just wasn't much.
But this is pretty new.
I'll check it out.
This is pretty new. So I'll be adding that to the website as resources for you, because for me that's exciting.
Oh man.
Now I was watching, like right before dinner, I was watching this has nothing to do with Exodus, so this is now whatever. But I was watching about the study of Jericho, and there is an Italian crew that's in charge of the site of Jericho.
Well, they found that.
No, they found it, but there's an Italian site that's been there for about 20 years. They've been excavating. They're now covering up stuff that is, when they cover it up, it then is destroying the narrative that Jericho is the ancient battle of Jericho, that Joshua conquered it. They're trying to rewrite history.
Oh, Lord.
They're trying to rewrite history to take the Bible out of the actual archaeological site.
Yeah.
So,
There's quite a bit of episodes on the wall of Jericho, how it even collapsed.
yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
it's just even the rubbish is still there.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they find one like they could? I thought I saw it one time, but then I never could find it again. It looked like where they had found where the what's the prostitutes
Rahab,
where they found her apartment. It was like
Correct.
there was one little place in the wall. that was
That's
like-
right.
Yeah,
That's right.
it's like that.
Yeah, I've seen that
Yeah,
too.
it's interesting.
So they're trying to cover that stuff up.
Yeah, well, that's all.
So it's important that when we have the evidence that we have, that we know what's there before it ends up being destroyed or gone or whatever. But anyway, I'll continue adding pictures, maps, videos, all that stuff on the website. It's cool stuff. And then this will obviously you'll be watching, because you're watching right now if you're on the video. You'll be watching, and these will be here each week, and I'll put them on there so you can follow through with us on Exodus. Thanks for coming, and we will see you next week for chapters 4 and 5 next week. Have a good one.